The Louie T Network is powered by MusicHead University. MusicHeads, classes in session. Turn me up. Enroll on YouTube now. Link is in the description.
Who else could it be but me, your man, Louie T? Welcome to the Command Post Live. You know what it is. Post up. Take command. I, of course, am your Commander-in-Chief, Louie T. Thank you for joining me. Minicamp underway. So much excitement surrounding this team. It's the last time we will see them for their off-season activities until training camp, and that's when the real fun begins. But so much to get to today, so much to unpack. We've already talked about the Ayuk situation. Kind of want to steer clear of that here. Want to actually talk about some things going on grass today. Guys participating, guys making plays and stepping up. Other opportunities for some players to step up. Dan Quinn told us with his own mouth prior to this process that mini camps was going to be an opportunity for some of the younger guys who haven't gotten many reps to get an opportunity to shine prior to training camp, kind of to give them a chance to properly slot these guys going into training camp, if you will. So much to get to. Want to go ahead and start to unpack some of these layers. And I want to start with an article written by John Keim. Well, it's a collaborative article that was written by all of the different ESPN Nation reporters that cover the certain teams. A lot of teams had their mandatory minicamp start today. The Commanders were one of about, I think, 10 or 11 that had their mandatory minis start today. And obviously ours will run through Thursday. And so every team that started their mandatory minicamps today, their ESPN Nation reporter was tasked with writing a quick little, 2-minute read on, some things that transpired today, things that stuck out to them. John Keim obviously covers the Commanders for ESPN. He wrote a quick little excerpt. I want to read this to you because it's exciting, and it tackles a couple of questions that we had going into this process. It also highlights a guy that I know a lot of you want to see more from. I've all but given up on him at this point. I hope that this offense benefits him. I think it can, but until I actually see him making plays, and I know he's capable. That's the part that's very frustrating. I know he's capable, but until the opportunities present themselves and he's actually able to take advantage of them, Ben Sinnott is a figment of my imagination as far as him being a playmaker is concerned. Forget about him living up to the second-round pick status that was spent on him. That ship has sailed. He's never going to live up to that hype. But what he can do is at least make us feel like we didn't completely waste a pick on him. Maybe not living up to the value of a second-rounder, but maybe more of a fourth or a fifth-rounder, fine. But at least let's not feel like we wasted an entire pick and a guy that can't help us at all in any capacity. I think he is very athletic. He is fully capable of catching football. He's fully capable of making plays. And I think just giving him more opportunities will help to unlock him and to hear that he stood out today, because we haven't heard shit about Ben Sinnott. We saw one clip of him catching the football the other day, and that was a sight for sore eyes. But this is the time of year, because this time OTAs and mandatory minicamp, this is set up for skilled players to shine. The receivers, the tight ends, the running backs that can catch the football out of the backfield. This is the time where they're supposed to step up and show themselves, reveal themselves to be a guy that, hey, maybe we need to give this guy more opportunities. Maybe we need to carve out a niche for him. Maybe we need to put in a package specifically for this guy to get on the field. And we just haven't heard anything about Ben Sinnott. Well, maybe last week us seeing that clip, and then this week hearing John Keim talk about him making some more big plays, maybe Ben Sinnott is finally starting to find his footing in this new offense authored by David Bliggity Blau. And maybe, just maybe, in year 3, the light bulb is finally going to come on for Ben Sinnott and an offense that maybe suits his skill set a little bit better. And maybe he's going to step up and finally show that he wasn't a wasted draft pick. He may not be worthy of a second-round pick, but again, if he's Kyle Juszczyk, right? Yeah, Kyle Juszczyk wasn't worth a second-round pick, but Kyle Juszczyk is a very valuable piece in San Francisco. He got another contract extension with the 49ers, his second, right? He's a very valuable piece. He can block, and you say what you want about Ben Sinnott. He can block on the move. When you take him and you move him around and he gets a head start, he's a hell of a blocker, okay? He's not necessarily your traditional inline Y tight end blocker, but you move him around, you send him to be the lead blocker like a fullback or an H-back, he's damn good. I feel like he can be a piece, and maybe they overdrafted him for the role that they envisioned for him, but we were told, Adam Peters told us, they envision him as a Kyle Juszczyk cross with George Kittle. Maybe they stretched a bit on the George Kittle side. Maybe he's closer to Kyle Juszczyk, and that's okay if they're going to utilize him like the 49ers used Kyle Juszczyk. Maybe we're starting to see the makings of that taking place. I don't know. Let's talk about it, though, and let's talk about this John Keim article. I'm going to pull it up on the screen for you guys so you can see it, and we will discuss it. And want to talk about, because Keim dropped a bunch of nuggets, a bunch of gems on our melon. So let's get to it and start with this article. So, and then we'll take a look at some sights and sounds from day one of mandatory minis, as we customarily do here. So it says, the Commanders did not like their depth last season, so a main goal this week will be to gauge how much they have improved in several areas. And he's alluding to what DQ talked about, giving some of those guys that haven't gotten a lot of opportunities during OTAs an opportunity to step up here and see what these guys can do. They did that Tuesday by giving more reps to players who may not have had as many throughout the spring. Again, DQ has never lied to me. I told you guys this. When he says something, you should listen. He hasn't lied to us yet. He says players who are viewed as potential starters stayed on one field while backups conducted 11-on-11 work on another. That's a really good way of continuing to keep the starters getting reps and continuing to do things, but also giving the young guys an opportunity to get a look-see. Quote, it's not a question of if, but when, close quote, said Dan Quinn of needing depth, which we found out the hard way last year. In Quinn's first season 2 years ago, only one Washington starter, defensive tackle Jonathan Allen, missed as many as 9 regular season games. No other starter missed more than 6. In 2025, they had 9 players who missed at least 6 games. Their depth was tested. They failed the test en route to a 5-12 season. That is very, very eloquently put and spot on, right? Quinn wants to get a stronger feel for the running back room and the cornerbacks in particular, players such as Carlin Vickers. What did I say yesterday? Is there a cornerback 5 in the house? Is there a cornerback 5 in the house? Carlin Vickers is a name. And I said, don't forget about the guys that were here last year. Darius Rush, Carlin Vickers. These were guys that were on the practice squad last year when the season ended. Don't forget about them. Who's cornerback 5? Is that guy on the roster or not? They liked his length last season, but they want him to be more tested. One player who jumped out during this portion was tight end Ben Sinnott. Hey, Ben Sinnott alert. The third-year pro caught one pass down the right sideline for a big gain and another over the middle. So 2 big catches. We haven't heard this concerning Ben Sinnott. We haven't heard him making plays this entire offseason. No one's mentioned him. No one's mentioning Ben Sinnott. I've heard more conversations about John Bates, the pass catcher, than I have Ben Sinnott, the pass catcher, this spring. So it's great and very refreshing to hear that Ben Sinnott stood out today in day one of mandatory minicamps, making a big catch down the sidelines and then another one over the middle of the field. He's capable. He is capable. All right? Ben Sinnott is capable. After catching 16 passes in the past 2 seasons combined, getting more reps could lead to more productivity in an offense Washington feels far better suits his strengths than his previous system under former coordinator Cliff Kingsbury, which I feel 1,000% that way. This offense, when you're under center, you can sneak a fullback into the backfield. And again, he could be an H-back. You can call him whatever you want. But there is a place for him on the field where you can get him into different formations and sets. You can start him out wide. You can start him out in the slot. You can motion him into the backfield. And that can be the basis for a run play. That could be the basis for a pass play. You can go misdirection. He could start running one way and then pivot and turn, go the other way. And Jaden can come out the back door on a boot. And here comes Ben Sinnott, wide ass open, butt ass naked into the flats. And you just toss it to him. There's so much you can do with Ben Sinnott. He can run a wheel route up the sideline out of the backfield. Remember, John Bates ran a corner route against Detroit late in that game to put it away with the catch. And he was lined up as a fullback, particularly on that play. There's so much you can do with Ben Sinnott in this offense that you're not going to ask Chigga Conko to do, that you're not going to ask John Bates to do. I think there's a niche you can carve out for Ben Sinnott in this offense. I'm really excited for him this year, but he's going to have to stay healthy. He's had no issues with that to this point, and he's going to have to produce when his number is called. He's got to know the playbook. He's got to understand what they're asking him to do. And he can't be jumping false start. He can't be doing dumb shit that's going to force them to take him off the field, which we've seen him do in the past. He's got to be locked in, and he's got to be ready when his number is called. I think this third year is a huge one for him, and I think he understands that. I think he realizes the opportunity that's in front of him with this new offense that probably fits his skill set more. Remember, he came out of college as an H-back. He was not a traditional tight end when he was at K-State. This offense fits his skill set. I think he understands that. And hopefully he's ready to take advantage of the opportunity. This is a good sign. This is a really good sign. Quick hits from John Keim. Running back Ja'Cory Crosky-Merritt, a.k.a. Bill, who did not practice during voluntary OTA session because of an undisclosed injury, was able to practice Tuesday. There are clips of him running around. I'll show you some of those if you haven't already seen them yourself. So he did participate today, so that's a great sign. It's a crowded running back room. Quinn said Crosky-Merritt has to show what he can do in pass protection, among other areas, which that was one of the knocks on him last year. Remember, Cliff Kingsbury had his beef with Bill, and the thing that he chose to harp on, instead of harping on the things that Bill could do and all the positives that Bill could bring, he decided to harp on the fact that Bill wasn't great without the football in his hands. Meaning he wasn't a great pass protector. He was not a great route runner out of the backfield. He was not hitting his landmarks as a receiver out of the backfield. So he couldn't be trusted without the ball in his hands, which might have been true, right? I'm not disputing any of that. Well, don't put him in those situations where you're asking him to protect someone in the pass game. Don't put him in situations where you're asking him to run some sophisticated routes out of the backfield. Ask him to do the things that, as a rookie, he can digest and move forward there. I think this year he has to step up now. It's year 2. No excuses. We ask you to protect the quarterback. We need you to do that. If you can't, we'll put somebody else in that can. And if you have to run a specific route out of the backfield, we need you to be able to do that. Because I know he can catch the football. There's no doubt in my mind that he has natural enough hands out of the backfield to be a problem as a pass catcher. So I do think that he can shine in that area, but he's going to have to show that he can get it done without the ball in his hands, and pass protection is one of the biggest things. Got to protect 5 if you're going to be in the game in those situations. And this was a big one we talked about yesterday. I gave you 7 items. Bill was one of them, right? Is there a cornerback 5 in the house? We kind of just had that answered by John Keim. Like, Carlin Vigors is a guy they're looking to see step up. All right, here was another thing we talked about, the kicking competition. This is something we're going to continue to follow very closely. He says it'll be an interesting kicking competition this summer between Jake Moody and undrafted free agent Drew Stevens. On Tuesday, Moody made 4 of 6 field goals. He missed from 38 and 48. It's not a good sign. That's not good. That's not very good. All right. Stevens was perfect on all 6 of his attempts. Both attempted kicks from 28, 33, 38, 43, 48, and 53 yards. So Moody missed from 38 and 48, damn near an extra point. And I told you 40 to 49 is the money distance. That's where the vast majority of your kicks are going to come from. Drives generally stall out somewhere in the 20s when teams elect, let's get some points, right? The 27-yard line, now you're kicking a 45-yard field goal. Your drive stalls out at the 24-yard line. Now you're kicking a 42-yard field goal. Your drive stalls out at the 30, 31-yard line. Now you're kicking a 48, 49-yard field goal. Those have to be deposited through the uprights. we can understand if you miss a 55-yard field goal. We don't want you to, but you're not going to be perfect from that distance. I don't expect you to be perfect from the money distance, but you can't miss a 38-yard field goal. You can't miss a 38-yard field goal. I need all my extra points. I need all my 38-yard field goals to be deposited through the uprights. Jake Moody's on the ropes. This is the second week in a row. And again, we don't know what's happening when the media is not there. Moody could be killing it on the days where the media isn't there, and Jake and Drew Stevens could be struggling in those instances. So we don't know what exactly is happening. But that's the second week in a row now where Drew Stevens, the undrafted rookie out of Iowa, has gone perfect. Meanwhile, Jake Moody has missed multiple kicks. Last week, he missed 3. This week, he missed 2. He's on the ropes as we head into the final stages of the offseason work. And pun intended, Drew Stevens may go into this kicking competition with the leg up. Did you see what I did there? Okay, I that was too obvious, right? Jake Moody better get his shit together because this young boy ain't playing. And I would love nothing more than to have a homegrown kicker who's never kicked anywhere else in the league, who's young, wide-eyed, big leg, ready to come in here and make some noise and be here for the next 15, 20 years. It'd be great to have a place kicker be our Tress Way of the field goal kicking department, a guy that's just here forever and ever and ever. And we know we can rely on him. We know we can trust him. We know if we send him on the field, he's going to get it done. I'm not saying that that's Drew Stevens. Again, I still have my doubts about him and my apprehensions about him. But Jake Moody is not safe by any stretch of the imagination. And if you can't bang him home in practice, how the hell can I trust you in the game setting? So, hey, Jake Moody, you better straighten up. You better straighten up and fly right. Tighten the hell up, because that young boy is applying pressure. He is applying pressure, and we know he has a big leg. Missing a 38-yarder is not a good look. I can understand 48, even though I need you to make that 2. But 38 yards, that's not good. Not very good. Not very good at all. So preseason, obviously, going to be huge for both of those kickers. The practice reps will be big. And we heard from Larry Izzo. We talked about this last week. Larry Izzo was very frank. Consistency is going to ultimately determine who wins that kicking competition. Consistency, right? Well, we're seeing right now, of the 2 kickers, the guy that's been the most consistent, by far and away, thus far, of the days that the media has been present, has been the undrafted rookie, Drew Stevens. Excuse me. The undrafted rookie, Drew Stevens. Jake Moody is on the ropes. Good thing is, after Thursday, he gets to go back to his corner. His trainer in the corner gets to splash water on his face, grab his mouthpiece, squirt some water in his mouth, Vaseline him up, get his mind right, give him some instructions. He gets to catch his breath, right? Take some deep breaths, get rehydrated. Then that bell rings in late July. They're going to send him back out there, and he better be ready. He better be ready, because Jake Moody is applying, Drew Stevens is applying pressure. He is applying pressure. And I just want you to know that Dan Quinn and Adam Peters are invested in this place kicking competition. They have been seen watching the kickers kick multiple times at practices. They are invested in this kicking because they know how important this shit is. And I think if I had to guess, I think Adam Peters would much rather it be Drew Stevens. He's not rooting for anyone. He just wants whomever is going to make this team better. But if he had to pick, I bet you he'd take Drew Stevens, this undrafted kid that his scouts were able to scour through and find and bring in here. He's young, and he could be our kicker for a very long time. Not that Moody's old. Moody's young too, right? Both of these guys could be our kicker for the next 15 years. But a guy that you handpicked, even though you didn't spend a draft pick on him, but a UDFA is just like a draft pick. You go out and you sign a guy to a UDFA deal and they end up making your roster, that's a win for you as a general manager. So we'll see what happens. Jake Moody feels like he's on the ropes right now. And, you know, round of applause for Ben Sinnott, man. He needs to step up. This is a big season for him and all the rest of those 2024 draft picks, 2025 guys as well. We need them. But Sinnott is almost a forgotten man at this point. And I think this offense could be tailor-made for his skill set. And it's great to hear that he's stepping up and taking advantage of some opportunities. Finally stepping up and taking advantage of some opportunities. So good to hear that. All right, let's get to some sights and sounds from today. And really, I want to start with some media day. I want to start with some media day stuff from the team website. So I want to start here, and then we'll go from there. We'll go scouring over some things. So this is Jaden Daniels right here, QB1, Aura right here. They get him for media. And you know how this goes, right? We're all aware of how this goes. We'll be seeing this either on game days at the stadium, or if they're trying to hype some stuff up, you'll be seeing this. So pretty dope. You're just kind of seeing a clip of them making some of these videos that you'll be seeing throughout the 2026 season. This is our quarterback, man. This is our quarterback right here. All right, moving on. How dope is this photo? How dope is this? How dope is that photo, y'all? Like, this is fire right here. Like, yikes. I just hope he is able to play the way that I know he's capable of playing this year, man. That's a dope photo. Everything that he does seems like it's fire. And this is Oos right here, right? This is Oos stepping in. So this is going to be one of the themes of the season, them with these picture frames with the players. I like it. I think it's dope. They've killed it all year this year, like we've said. Like, they back to their 2024 form. All right. This is pretty cool, too, right here. Right. Big and when they were rookies. The first time doing this in Tennessee, and now 4 years later they're doing it again. This time as a part of the Commanders. I thought that was pretty cool. A then and now type of situation. You get a code red here, Laramie Tunzel, our enforcer, our left tackle enforcer. Also, you get Adafe Owe, another big offseason acquisition here, and his get up. So some clean wear from the fellas here. Pretty dope. All right. So that's code red. You get Terry here on his portrait. Terry been swagging it out this whole offseason, man. Dropping the football through the photo frame. That's dope. Then you know what you get here with the scary Terry masking, reveal. All right, another one, and another one, and another one. So that's El Capitan right there, man. I think he's poised for a massive, massive season, bro. Massive season for 17, I believe. So you got a bunch of, we're going to do this tomorrow. Quinn spoke. Kaylavon Chason. Sonny Styles spoke. Quan Martin spoke. Conveniently, they did not post Quan Martin on the set. Here's Jaden and his, right? Got the side profile. Then he turns abruptly to the camera. That's our guy, man. That's our guy. 5. He's going to lead us this year, man. He's gonna have such a big season, man. He's ready. He's ready. All right, and then some more picks. There you see Revo. There you see Kaylavon Chason. There you see Nick Cross. And there you see our linebackers of the future, our combo of the future. This could turn into the best duo in the league at the linebacker position. Give them 2 years. This is the first year for Chanel here. This is rookie season for Styles. Wait till year 2 for Styles and year 2 for Chanel in this defense. I mean, maybe we won't have to wait till year 2. Maybe they come out of the gates year 1 swinging, knocking dudes out like Prime Tyson. But I'm going to give them a second year to really get comfortable in the system and be ready to kill shit next year. But this could be the duo that absolutely murders it. You won't find a more athletically gifted duo than these two next to each other. This is going to be so much fun watching these dudes grow. And remember, Leo Chanel is 24 years old. He is a spring chicken. These boys can grow together for the next 5 to 7 years if the team wants them to. All right. So really looking forward to seeing these boys kill it together, man. So that's starting off with the Commanders. Let's transition to NBC Sports 4 and see what they got going on. So here you got a drill from Sonny Styles. And I love this drill. I don't know if you guys see what's going on here, but you stack, right? You take on a blocker, and then you go and you punch that football out. I mean, we haven't seen a lot of that here. Like, I love the fact that they're repping that. And I want you to look at this again. You look at Styles, Frankie Louvu, and everybody getting reps in. This is dope right here. So you stack, get to a blocker, get off that block, force the ball out. Nice little peanut punch. I need it this year, bro. I need it. You see them rushing, trying to get to the quarterback. Love it. You even got guys like Nick Cross on that drill, rushing, trying to. So you can see what it's going to be right around the line of scrimmage. You see what it's going to be. I love it. I love it. I love it. All right. Here you get Jaden throwing to 3 different targets. First guy you're going to see him throw the football to is Traylon Burks. All right. Little shallow cross. Then you're going to see him hit Chig here on a little stop. Boom. Chig gets up the field. And then you're going to see him hit Terry on a deep over route. And I love to see that. Little over route from Terry. Get up the field. Those are going to be 3 targets that we see getting a lot of reps this upcoming season. Even with the addition of a Brandon Ayuk, I think you're going to see a lot of Traylon Burks. He's not going away, folks. Obviously, you're going to see a lot of Chig. I told you, he's option 2 on this team. He's essentially wide receiver 2, but he's option 2. We'll call him option 2 because he's not a receiver. And then Terry, obviously, is numero uno. He's option 1 across the board, the guy that they're going to try to get the football to a ton more this season. So good work there from 3 guys that are going to have to step up this season and going to be called upon to have very large roles in this offense. All right. All right. So, again, I'm telling y'all about Johnny Newton.
And I mean,
look at Johnny's face.
Yeah, for sure. He said we got to be a whole bunch of Denzel Washingtons. So, great actors. And I mean, if everything looks the same, it opens up the first time we've heard one of the players talk about Denzel Washington. Because it all looks the same. Durante Jones is a big movie buff. Slows him down. And yeah, for sure. He said we got to be a whole bunch of Denzel Washington. That's how you're going to disguise and trick. Great actors. And I mean, if everything looks the same, it opens up the pressures, the stunts that we have because it all looks the same. So it just confuses the offense, slows them down. Oh yeah, for sure.
All right,
he said we got to be a whole bunch of Denzel Washingtons. So great actors. And I mean, if everything looks the same, it opens up the pressures, the stunts that we have,
we need
because it all looks the same. So it just confuses the offense, slows them down.
Here.
Oh yeah, for sure. And he said we got to be a whole bunch of Denzel Washington.
We got everything we needed already. So let's just take a look at this one post from Ben Standing here, and it says, per Dan Quinn, which Quinn, talked about this at his press. You remember, Quinn always has his press conference before practice. So everybody else's press conference is after practice. So everyone will practice in some form today, except the 4 players coming off of end of season surgery, which are Dorrance Armstrong, Dietrich Wise, Tim Settle, and Trey Amos. That means Bill, Terry, and Antonio Williams all practice today. Antonio Williams is on the thumbnail making a one-handed grab earlier in practice. He participated. Him and Terry were held out of the end of OTA phase 3. It was a nothing burger. Basically, a day off for those guys. They've been going hard. Nothing there to see. They were back out there and in full participation mode. But Bill is the big one there. Bill is the one that we heard from John Keim already. He participated in full today. And you're going to see a clip. And I want you to watch this clip, because when we take a look at this clip of Bill and him going through this drill, I want to show you this. And I'm going to show you just Bill, and I want you to see everybody else in this clip. We're going to take a look at this clip from Zach Selby here in a second, but I want to go through a few things today. And let's go to Zach Selby, man. He usually drops some gems on our melon. So Zach Selby is a writer for Commanders.com. And he is a guy that is always out there, always, I think, has some insightful information. So I want to start here. He says, Dan Quinn, addressing the media before minicamp, said that he's looking forward to seeing more and more from the running backs, which John Keim alluded to. The cornerbacks, which John Keim alluded to with the Carlin Vigors piece. Ja'Cory Crosky-Merritt, he said he needed to see more from him, pass protecting being one of the biggest things. And then quarterbacks this week. We know who the first 2 quarterbacks are. There's a faux QB3 competition that's going to take place this summer. The winner has already been crowned. His name is Ethan Kaliak-Manis. But we still have to, it's almost like a job in a corporate setting. To clear all of the red tape, we still have to go through the process of the job being open and people being able to apply for said job, even though, wink, wink, we've already made up our mind as to who's getting the job. We still have to put it out there on the website. People still need to be allowed to apply. We still have to go through the interview process, but we already know who's getting the job. That's how I feel about Ethan Kaliak-Manis. As long as he doesn't vomit all over himself this offseason, and even if he does, they spent a 7th round pick on him. And Sam Hartman, the only way he doesn't win is 2 things have to happen simultaneously. Kaliak-Manis has to absolutely regurgitate all over himself or get injured, and coupled with Sam Hartman playing out of his gourd. Like, he's got to look like a totally different guy this summer. Like, he can't do anything wrong. And I don't think that's going to happen. But he says Ethan Kaliak-Manis and Sam Hartman will get a lot of looks this week. Good. Good. Good for them. All right. Zach Selby, this is from Van Jefferson, right? He says, Quinn said Van Jefferson and De'Ami Brown are 2 receivers who have stood out to him so far this summer. I would change that to spring, right? It's not quite summertime yet. We're getting close. But it's amazing that these 2 are the 2 names that he threw out there. I knew that De'Ami Brown was a guy that they felt really good about and that had popped a little bit, but we keep hearing Van Jefferson's name. We can't keep ignoring Van Jefferson. Now, I don't think he's going to make the team still, right? But let's hold on. Let's have a conversation for a second. We'll come back to this. Let's have a conversation for a second. Candy Waller told us about Van Jefferson here on this program. Over on Rio's channel, Lake Lewis Jr. told us about Van Jefferson. Dan Quinn has told us about Van Jefferson. And members of the media have talked about Van Jefferson getting behind the defense consistently throughout the spring. Now, it's the springtime. But again, I'd much rather we hear that you're having a great spring heading into summer and you're making plays than to not hear that. I just said the same thing about Ben Sinnott. I don't really care that it's set up for you to succeed. Go out and kill it. It beats the alternative of you doing nothing and not taking advantage of this opportunity. But there are 7 receiver spots, essentially, that I think this team is going to create, because I think the receiver position is a strength of this team right now. Not because of its frontline talent, but because of its totality, right? The depth of the position. They got some young guys, they got some veterans, and now they have some guys kind of in between in a De'Ami Brown and a Treylon Burks, right? 2 guys that are kind of in between, that they're veterans technically, but they're not the kind of veterans that, you know you can count on. Van Jefferson and Terry are veterans you can count on. Like, you say what you want about Van Jefferson, but you're going to get 400 yards and 2 touchdowns from Van Jefferson if he makes the roster. Problem is, I don't think he is, right? Because we've gone through this before. It's a numbers game. And assuming that Brandon Ayuk or some other veteran, I'm just going to assume it's Brandon Ayuk, ends up here. You've got Terry, you've got Ayuk, you've got Antonio Williams, right? Those 3 would be locks. You're not getting rid of either of the young guys. So Luke McCaffrey and Jalen Lane, those are locks. That's 5. De'Ami Brown feels as close to a lock as you can get without being a lock. That gives you 6. Excuse me. Right? Excuse me. Treylon Burks is a lock. That's 7. And then Van Jefferson would give you 8. Feels like he's on the outside looking in. I love the competition. And also, keep in mind, health is not guaranteed to any of our receivers. Health is not guaranteed. We're not going to speak anything into existence, but it's good to have another guy here that if something happens to one of the receivers, this guy could step in and make the roster. And it's not going to be like last year where it's some guy that we know we can't count on, like a Michael Gallup or a KJ Osborne or a Chris Moore or someone of that ilk. You're actually getting a credible, competent NFL receiver in Van Jefferson. So I like it. I like it a lot. Is it Van Jefferson season? Who knows? We'll see. He could beat someone out. They're not keeping 8 receivers. That's not happening. But he could beat somebody out. That could happen. All right. So let's get back to Josh Selby, or Zach Selby, excuse me. He says, Quinn said Sonny Styles is in control as a communicator on the field, compared him to Jaden in that way about how he's about to communicate calls and checks. So I think that's a pretty big one, right? It's a pretty big one that he's already getting comfortable enough to the point now where they're feeling good about him as a communicator. Like, we've heard that a lot of people are wearing the green dot, and that's probably should be the case, right? Like, you want the more the merrier. You want a bunch of guys out there wearing the green dot because you just don't know what's going to happen. And you need as many guys comfortable with being out there, being able to wear the green dot, communicate, just in case something happens, right? But I just know this. They want a guy. They want a guy to take over and be the communicator, like the one chief communicator. They don't want a bunch of different guys having to carry that mantle. They've been spoiled the last 2 years. Bobby Wagner has been your chief communicator each of the last 2 years. So I think that's a guy that we got to keep a watchful eye on, because if they are saying what they're saying about Sonny Styles and it comes to fruition this summer, he's going to be the guy with the green dot. And remember, Durante Jones said, you want the guy that is on the field the most, so you don't have to worry about communication. Who's going to be on the field more than Sonny Styles on this defense? I can't imagine anybody being in more different packages. He's got to be the guy that's playing 100% of the snaps, I would think, right? If he has a total grasp of this defense, you would think. But, we'll see. All right, let's last thing from Zach Selby before we get to some of the videos that he was able to capture from today. Guys catching punts today: Jalen Lane, Treylon Burks, Antonio Williams, Luke McCaffrey. Of these 4 guys, I only need to ever see 2 guys returning punts, ever. Jalen Lane and Antonio Williams. I don't ever need to see Treylon Burks back there fielding a punt, and I don't ever need to see Luke McCaffrey back there fielding a punt. You can put him back there in the preseason if you want, knock yourself out. But when we get into games and the money's on the floor or the money's on the table, right, and the dice are in the hand, I don't need to see anybody else back there fielding a punt but Jalen Lane. And if Lane should be fielding every single punt, and something happens to him and he can't be back there, Antonio Williams is your breaking in case of an emergency. I don't ever need to see Treylon Burks or Luke McCaffrey back there. I feel like we're in a good spot now. We actually have 2 legitimate punt returners on the roster. All right. So this was a video that I thought got a little bit of play today, and for good reason. We can never get enough of Laremy Tunsil working with Josh Connolly Jr., right? Connolly told us that he actually went down to the South this spring to work with Laremy Tunsil to help get his diet right and to also work on getting into better shape. And we can see the difference. He looks like a different guy. And him getting this work on the side with Laremy giving him tips on how to get out of his stance. You see him giving him pointers, on how to move and be efficient with his movement. It's only going to help him become that much better, man. I want to see him attached to the hip of Laremy Tunsil this upcoming season. This shit is beautiful, man. This almost brings a tear to my eye, because we spent the first round pick on this guy and people were crucifying him at the beginning of last year. And I think we all knew he was young. That kid was so young. And Rico kept saying, had he gone back to school, he probably would have been the first tackle taken this year in the draft. But he came out a year early, and he got, on the job training last year. He got thrown into the fire. And I thought he got better as the season went along. And now he's got a all-pro, teaching him the ropes. I think this kid is primed for a massive second season in an offense that probably is going to be better tailored to his skill set. This shit is beautiful, honestly speaking. All right. There's my guy, Jalen Bradley, right? Jaden Bradley, who I think is a guy that you got to keep an eye on and like really look for him this summer in the preseason. I think he's going to be a guy that gets a lot of reps. I think they really are going to fall in love with him. I like this game coming out of UNLV. So we'll see what happens. But I want you to watch this clip of Bill going through this, right? Look how effortless it is for him. Now, I'm gonna show you the full clip of this later on, but I just want you to see how clean it is when Bill does it. Low center of gravity, runs with power. We know he runs very powerfully. This is awesome from Bill, right? Now, we're gonna go back and we're gonna watch the full clip of this here with Mitch Pitchler, who had the entire group. So let's go ahead and switch this over to Mitch. And I'm going to start this over now. These first guys you see doing this are the tight ends. So it's not going to look the same, right? Like that guy just struggled right there, right? This guy's struggling too high. He's coming through there too high, right? Now these are the running backs. Still, right? That wasn't too bad, but it wasn't Bill. This is McNichols right here going through it. Running backs have to do it twice. That's cool. That's Rachaad White. That's Jerome Ford. That's Fat Man. A little high. And then this is Bill. And just look how clean that's it. Like, see how effortless that is for Bill? This is crazy, man. He's the alpha in that room. Like, if he's performing at the level that we need him to, that running back room has a chance to be really, really good. Like, really, really good. If he's not healthy or he's not playing at his peak performance, this is an ordinary running back room. It's an ordinary room. Bill is the X factor, if you ask me. Love what Rachaad White brings in the pass game. Love what Fat Man potentially brings as a short yardage, physical grinder, fourth quarter closer, potentially, down by the goal line type of guy, whatever you want to call him. But Bill is the explosive, dynamic piece here. We need him. We need him in order to maximize this group. So this is the Van Jefferson video here, right? I'm going to show you another one of these Van Jefferson videos, but we'll run 5 yards, stop. Run 5 yards, stop, come back to the ball, right? This is just working on breaking down, right? Least amount of steps as possible, efficient, come back to the football, right? That's the guy that DQ said has been super impressive, all right? He said he's hoping, Mitch Tischler says he's hoping to see this. If I can get this to work. For some reason, that's not working. It's a Terry hitch. All right, this is a Terry hitch. He stops, runs 5 yards, hitches up, gets it, catches it, turns up the field. He says he wants to see that 10 to 12 times a game. All right. And then we're going to finish up with this. And this is the Van Jefferson, again, opposite side. I'm running that same drill coming back the other way, right? And this is from Scott Abraham. You know, Scott does a lot in terms of video, and you get a lot from Scott. Scott kills it this time of the year. All right, so that's Van Jefferson. All right. So now let's go. Let's get our fix, our Bill fix. I just talked about Bill being the best of the best in that running back room, and he's the guy. Look at how dynamic this looks. You remember we've seen clips of him working on jump cuts and being efficient with his movements. This is the guy right here. This is the guy. This is the guy. If this room is going to pop, that's the guy. So this is Jaden right here. Throwing the football. Him and Marcus getting in some reps. All right. Good to see 5 out there. More Bill. More Bill for us. See those feet? I just love his low center of gravity too, man. Catching it out of the backfield. We know he can do that. We saw him do that last year against the Chargers, against the Falcons. We saw him catch it out of the backfield early in the season last year when he was given opportunities to do that. We saw him do that. He's capable. More Bill. All right. So this is Jaden with the GoPro. I like how they hitting Jaden with the bags all nice and soft. I wonder if they be hitting 8th and Cadillac Madison, some of the other dudes all soft with the bag. They probably be lighting them up. Nah, they probably hit them all the same. That GoPro might be a thing now. Like they really like. I wonder if they're gonna use it in training camp. That'll be interesting. Will they use the GoPro in training camp? So They like Van Jefferson. This is the Van Jefferson clip we just watched, just closer up. From both sides. We've seen it from both sides. All right. This is Sonny Styles. We can't get enough of watching Sonny Styles work, man. It's that little rabbit drill they used to have at the combine. You know, it's a different drill, like, because usually it would be for offensive linemen. You're seeing it with linebackers. That's a guy that we haven't talked about a lot. He seems to be the forgotten man, is Jordan McGee. We can probably talk about him during this little, break here, this little sabbatical that's taking place. That's going to be one of the names we're going to start to bring up, is Jordan McGee, because he's making his team, and there may be an opportunity for him to get on the field and still have an impact in year 3. So it's kind of like we got all these new toys, and everybody's excited about Leo Chanel and Sonny Styles, but I think it's so easy to forget that, like, Jordan McGee is a guy that can absolutely hoop. So I do think that he's a guy that we shouldn't just discount. Right. So anyway, that was the sights and sounds from Mandatory Minis Day 1. So excited about, the competition that's taking place. Van Jefferson is going to make things interesting at the receiver position, if nothing else. Obviously, you have a ton of guys in that tight end room, but Ben Sinnott finally making a statement, making some plays. That's good to hear, right? I love the fact that we're continuing to see the development and growth of Sonny Styles. They're getting more and more comfortable with him having the green dot. So that's great to hear. And, you're seeing the evolution of that wide receiver room coming together. Traylon Burks has had a strong spring. De'Ami Brown, strong spring. Van Jefferson, strong spring. That's what we need. We need guys to continue to grow and really put their imprint on their respective positions, because we need as much depth as John Keim alluded to, and we've talked about for months now, going back to 2025. The team's lack of depth bit them in the ass last year. There was a test that was given to them in terms of depth. And look, let's be honest with ourselves. Teams that incur a ton of injuries usually don't come out of the other side a winner. The 49ers last year were one of the few teams that we've seen here recently that incurred a ton of injuries and somehow still were able to make it through on the other side. Mac Jones stepped up. You had guys like Kendrick Bourne step up for them, who they signed early in the season, right? He could have been here in Washington. We let him leave. He goes to San Francisco, and he was huge for them, keeping them afloat with all the injuries to the receiver position. They lost Fred Warner very early in the season. They lost Nick Bosa early in the season, and they still were able to overcome all of those injuries and make it to the playoffs, win a playoff game on the road against Philadelphia. That's rare in this league. Generally, the teams that are able to stay healthiest are the teams that are able to win. We were healthy 2 years ago in 2024. Like John Keim alluded to in his article, last year, we weren't. And that's when your depth needs to kick in. The 49ers had enough depth because they've run their program for long enough to where they've got enough guys that fit their profile that can step in and help. We're not there yet. We're getting there. We're starting to build that, but we got a ways to go. But this year, for the amount of resources that we had, limited in the draft, tons of it in free agency, I thought they did a great job of maximizing both. Maybe could have done a little bit more in free agency at the cornerback position in particular, but I've already told you that cornerback is one of those positions that they don't put as much emphasis on, particularly in this defense. So I think for what they wanted it to be, what they needed it to be, I think they maximized, all of their resources. They tried to spend money, but you weren't going to overpay for Linderbaum, right? You weren't going to overpay for Tyler Linderbaum. That's a crazy number the Raiders gave him. They tried to get a receiver like Romeo Doubs. He chose New England, right? They wanted to spend on Alec Pierce. He went back to Indianapolis. It's not for a lack of trying, right? But they went out, they maximized their resources, and I think this team has a ton of quality depth. They are missing another guy at the receiver position, and I think that answer is going to show up at some point in Brandon Ayuk, and then it feels like the cipher will be complete. Maybe you could have done a little bit more at corner. Again, we're asking ourselves, is there a fifth corner in the house, which means you didn't do enough, to be honest. But again, it's a position that, you know, they feel like you don't need as much at, but I at least like having a full cupboard, all 5 corners, right? At least feel good about that. And we don't have but 4 right now. So anyway, I digress. Let's get to a word from our sponsor. We'll come back on the other side and get to the comment section, and then I'll get you guys out of here. It's that time, people. The World Cup is upon us, and PrizePicks has you covered. Link is in the description of this video, where you can download the PrizePicks app, which is available in states like California, Florida, and Texas, to allow you to explore all the options that PrizePicks has available for you to game with the World Cup. All these opportunities you see in front of you, from shots on target to tackles and goals, are available for you to create a lineup that can allow you to take full advantage of the World Cup. Lots of opportunities over the next month and a half as the World Cup takes over center stage. Be a part of the action and play now on PrizePicks. Use the promo code HMA to get you an opportunity to play $5 and get $50 instantly in lineup bonuses when you use the promo code HMA. LouieTeeNetwork on PrizePicks is where you can find me. Enjoy the World Cup and do it with PrizePicks. All right. All right. Big shout out to PrizePicks for sponsoring the stream. World Cup is in full swing. The World Cup odds-on favorite France got off to a great start today with a 3-1 win. Mbappe, 2 goals. We'll see if France is able to get it done. I love when stars are stars. I love when the guys that are supposed to step up, and he did today. He delivered. So let's get to the comment section, see what you guys have to say, and then we'll get out of here. Red House, not Roadhouse. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Red House, not Roadhouse writes, it feels like we have an abundance of stars. I wouldn't say an abundance of stars. It just feels like we have more talent here than we've had in quite some time. And that's been the rallying cry. I've been saying that all offseason. You've been saying that. We feel that. It feels different because it is different. Red House, not Roadhouse. There is more talent here. I won't say stars. Guys have to go out and perform like that before we can tag them as stars. But there's real talent here. It used to just be Terry and Jaden and, you know, Laramie Tunzel. And those are the guys that we can count on. But I think Leo Chanel, I think Chig Okonkwo, I think Antonio Williams, and again, he's got to prove it in an NFL setting. At least these guys, Leo Chanel and Chig Okonkwo, have proven that they can play at a high level in this league. Antonio Williams has not done that yet, but I think he's super talented. Trey Amos coming off of injury, super talented. Adafi Owe, super talented. Like Calevon Chason, former first-round pick, super talented. Like Adafi Owe, former first-round pick as well. Like these are guys that we haven't had this much depth. We haven't had this much talent here. Nick Cross, really talented football player. Like you look at this roster, you look at this team, and you see a lot more talent here than we're accustomed to seeing. And I think that's why there's such high hopes for us this year. You know, this, and then you factor in the breath of fresh air at the 2 coordinator spots and the changes that they're going to bring into the mix and what we are expecting from them. It just feels like there's a lot of promise here. And that's why it probably feels like we got stars, because it feels like we got more talent than we've had in a long time. And that's factual. We do have a lot more talent. Now, are they going to play like stars is the question. JJ Forever. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. JJ Forever writes, LT, I've had to listen to JP Finley make a fool of himself all week, slandering Ayuk. BA's leverage is to make the 49ers look bad. Given the breaking news, it seems to be working. Chess, not checkers. I look, I don't know what JP Finley is saying, but JP Finley is a company man. All right. He's not going to side with someone who's going on social media and doing things. And then you got to remember the guest that JP Finley is having come on his program. And if you hear enough people tell you that I don't know what this guy's doing, and this guy's acting irrational, and you hear that enough, you start to believe it. And again, move that aside. JP Finley is a company man. And so company men can't understand for the life of them what Brandon Ayuk is doing. This doesn't make any sense to them. And look, I'm not sitting here trying to justify Brandon Ayuk's actions. I will tell you that he's not crazy. People think he's crazy. He's not crazy. Is some of his behavior on social media erratic? Yeah. Is he the only 28-year-old that you know that is posting videos of himself dancing on social media? Is he the only 28-year-old posting pictures of himself with his a caption of his area, basically citing his location? No. Is he the only 28-year-old ranting and raving on social? No. He's not. I'm not telling you that it's what I would do or what you would do, but we're not Brandon Ayuk. He's his own man. Here's what I do know. If he's healthy and he's motivated, he's a hooper. He's not a bad guy. He's not a troublemaker. I don't really know what this discussion's about. All I know is what Brandon Ayuk is doing going to fast track him getting released? No, I don't think so. I don't agree with that, JJ. I don't think what he's doing on social media is impacting the 49ers in any way, shape, or form. I think that the reason you heard Jason Lockhan-Forrest say what he said is because the prevailing thought is that Brandon Ayuk at some point, and we're praying that it's the start of training camp, is going to threaten to show up, which is why they canceled. Part of the reason why, I don't want to say that because people take it out of context. Part of the reason they canceled mandatory minicamps, we've had this conversation before, is because they didn't want Brandon Ayuk showing up. And if he showed up then, it would have been a distraction. And they've avoided the distraction all offseason. So I think they expect him to show up or threaten to show up, and then they're going to cut him. If he doesn't threaten to show up, they're not going to cut him. You know why? Because Brandon Ayuk makes the Washington Commanders better. We don't play in the AFC. We play in the NFC. And oh, by the way, we're on the schedule this year, week 6. So if they can avoid Brandon Ayuk, they don't think he's washed. Trust me. That's why you heard their owner earlier in the year say, hey, we'd love to have Brandon Ayuk back, which was contrary to what we were hearing from the general manager and the head coach. They basically said, no, he's never playing for this team again. But they know he's talented, or else they would have cut him already. If they thought he was washed and he was trash and he couldn't help somebody, they would have cut him already. The reason Kyle Shanahan said, we're not trying to help somebody else, which is their way of saying we're not going to cut him and let him go straight to Washington, is because they know he can still hoop. If they thought he was washed, like the Eagles thought Donovan McNabb was washed, they would have just cut him loose so he could have joined our team and hurt us from within. J-Dub Clack, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Or excuse me, just skip one. My bad. Female fan since 82. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for your generosity. Who writes, what up, Lou? What's good with you? Female fan since 82. Thanks for the great coverage. 22 and 52 look amazing. But don't they, though? Boy, Bill looked extraordinary today. Good to see him back on the field. And Sonny Styles always looks great when he's out there on the field moving around. Let's go, Bill and Sonny. Yes. I cannot wait to see them on the field. And let's just get a quick little Bill chant, man, if we will. Why not, man? Why not a little quick Bill chant, man? J-Dub clap. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for the dime. Thank you for being who writes. Hey, Lou. What's up, J-Dub? Hope all is well with you and yours. Likewise, as always. The team has looked more athletic than any team I've watched in a while. I'm also going through a loss of someone who I worked with. He was 21. Prayers up. Absolutely. Such a young age, man. Losing someone is always tough. Throw in the fact that they're so young and it's unexpected, and that's a bitter pill to swallow, man. Death is a part of life, unfortunately. You just don't expect it to come that young, right? And so prayers up to his family and friends and people that were affected by that tragedy. And I hope you're able to deal with that loss properly. And yeah, that's tough, man. That's tough. Prayers up for you and yours and everyone affected by that. This team is absolutely way more athletic. That's not even a conversation. It's so much more athletic. I told you, this is the most athletically gifted team I may have ever seen in Washington. And to me, the defense is the most athletic we've probably seen since 05, 04, 05. So, yeah, I would tell you that I'm so excited about this upcoming season. If these coaches are what I think they are, and you can't tell me right now that David Rye, Coach Henne, Durante Jones, David Blau, and company aren't like that right now. I'm all in. I'm bought in. I'm bought in. J-Dub clap. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. Who writes? Also, I had an image of what number Ayuk would wear when he gets here, and I landed on 15. Thoughts? I mean, that's Sam Hartman's number right now, but we know Sam Hartman's not making a roster. I could see that. I could see that. And I don't think Ayuk would look, bad in 15. I don't. So, also Van Jefferson, again, this is Van Jefferson Day. I'm not doing it on Van Jefferson Day. So I'm not gonna go there. We'll just go with your 15. I can see 15. I don't have an issue with 15. I don't have an issue at all with 15. I could also see him wearing another number, though. But we're not doing that on Van Jefferson Day. Your coverage of this team is awesome, Lou. Keep doing your thing. Also, are the Kings going live tonight? That I don't know. First of all, thank you so much for the kind words and your continued unwavering support. Man, I can't thank you enough. And people like yourself who continue to support the Louie T Network. None of this functions, runs as it does without your support. So thank you so much for the continued support. I like 15. I like 15, and I could see it. The Kings are technically supposed to be live tonight, but I have not gotten a definitive answer yet. So you're gonna have to stay tuned for that one. We're supposed to be live tonight, though. I really truly think it's gonna end up being Thursday, though. If normally we would have had a confirmation by now from all 4 Kings, and I would have been able to give you a definitive, yeah, we're going live tonight. I haven't gotten that yet, and it's already after 7 o'clock. I don't see it coming together tonight. So I think it's going to end up being Thursday night, to be honest with you. And you know what? That might not be the worst thing, because then mandatory minis would have come to a close. We can put it'll be some finality there, and we can start to turn our attention to training camp and kind of wrap everything up this whole entire offseason and put a pretty bow on it. So it probably won't be the worst thing in the world if it ends up being Thursday. Female fan since 82. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. Female fan since 82 writes, Quinn might be battling San Francisco, or baiting San Francisco to release BA when mentioning Van and Diami first today. I didn't think about it from that angle, but that's playing chess not checkers right there. You know, earlier, someone, who was it that said that? It was JJ Forever, talking about JP Finley not understanding Ayuk's ploy and what he was trying to do, playing chess, not checkers. Maybe DQ himself was playing a little bit of chess and not checkers today. I haven't watched that interview yet, the whole thing of the entirety of it. So I'm pretty sure someone asked him about it. He didn't just volunteer that information. Somebody probably asked him who's standing out to you thus far, and those were the names. But if they didn't specifically ask for receivers, if they just said who's standing out to you, it could have been a defender, it could have been you know, a place kicker, could have been anybody, and he throws out 2 wide receivers. Again, this is the time of year that the receivers and the skill position players, for that matter, should be highlighted, because this is the time they're set up for success. But if he just went out of his way and named those 2, maybe you're on to something, female fan since 82. Maybe you're on to something. I mean, Van Jefferson has been getting a lot of run from media members, people that have been on site, boots on the ground, have said, yo, do not sleep on Van Jefferson. And I like Van Jefferson. It's a numbers game, and I don't think he fits into the equation when it's all said and done. They're not keeping 8 receivers. And if, you know, when you add Brandon Ayuk, because it's not a matter of if, it's when Brandon Ayuk is added to this roster, assuming health, and that's the thing that we don't know, right, is that are we going to stay completely healthy at the receiver position? If we do, I can't see Van Jefferson cracking this roster. If we don't, then Van Jefferson could easily make this team. And so I just love that we have that kind of depth this year, because we didn't last year, right? This time last year, we were talking about a guy who hadn't played football in 2 years, but he was asked. Remember, he was asked before he stopped playing football, which is part of the reason why he stopped playing football in Michael Gallup. We're talking about a guy in KJ Osborne who did absolutely nothing for us the year prior, right? Was here at the end of the season, did nothing for us, and then was running it back and did even worse the following year and didn't make the roster. And then we were also talking about Chris Moore. It was bad, really bad. That's not the case this year. Whew. Thank the football gods for that. So maybe Quinn was baiting San Francisco. Maybe he is playing a little chess there. Something to think. He's something to think about. Don't know for sure, just speculating. That's a good one to throw out there. Female fan since 82. That's a good one. I didn't think about it from that angle. That's actually pretty interesting. Wrath of God. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. Wrath of God writes, younger too, Lou, but these boys need to step up. Yeah. We are a lot younger. We needed to get younger. We were the oldest team by a mile last year. So getting younger was absolutely at the top of the list of things. It was the top of the pile, as a wise man likes to say. It was at the top of the pile, and they absolutely executed that this year. But like you said, they got to step up. Got to step up. Guys got to go out and perform, right? It's not cool to just get younger. We also need you to perform and produce. John Perez Sports, my guy. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. My guy, JP, writes, Lou, good to see you as always. Likewise, JP, always great to hear from you. First off, happy for Knicks fans. I am too, right? I am too. So many of them suffered with this team, suffered through James Dolan. And unlike us, who had to finally change ownership to get it done, they actually didn't have to change ownership, and they found a way to get it done. So good for them. Good for them. Secondly, I'm getting into this soccer, man. World Cup game this year. Also, F the petty-ass 49ers. And I don't have any animosity towards the 49ers. Like, you know, the Brandon Ayuk situation, he's not our guy until he's here. That's not our fight. We know they're delaying the inevitable. So now it becomes a little bit of a point of interest for us. But that's not our fight. You know, till he's here, he's not a member of the family. We know eventually he's going to become a member of the family. And I haven't taken it personal because we haven't gotten to a point where it's hurting us. It only starts to hurt us when we get into training camp and they still haven't done anything. But again, I won't be upset at them unless Ayuk does what he needs to do and they still hold on to him. Right now, Ayuk, to me, is holding up this process because he can speed this up by simply showing up. He shows up, he causes a ruckus just by his mere presence. He doesn't have to say a word. The media frenzy, the attention that he's going to draw, the questions that are going to be posed to Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch and players alike are going to be enough of a distraction that they won't want his presence there. So the mere threat of him showing up is enough to get him released. He hasn't threatened them with his presence. So I feel like this is dragging on longer than it needs to. So I hope he understands what needs to be done and does it. And if at that point the 49ers are willing to take the hit on the distraction to hold on to him until they have to do something, which is at the end of the summer, then I will become perturbed. And then I will be on some F the San Francisco 49ers, it's on site type shit with them, because now you're delaying the inevitable and you're hurting our process. Nothing has been hurt right now. You know, nothing has been hurt. So it could easily turn into F the petty ass 49ers, though. It could easily turn into that in at early August if he's still not released and he's still a member of their organization. It could easily turn into that. But again, only if Ayuk has done everything on his end and the 49ers still don't release him. Then it becomes like, okay, now you're really being petty. I think I'm going to watch the World Cup a little bit. I already have. So I've watched more soccer in the last, over this past weekend. I watched more soccer than I have the last 23 years combined. The last time I watched a lot of soccer was like the 99 women's, 99 or 98. I think it was 99 women's World Cup. So I haven't watched soccer in a very long time, is what I'm basically telling you. When Brandi Chastain took her shirt off and slid and did this in her sports bra, I was locked in. So I think I'm actually going to watch a lot more of it too. And the U.S. actually got off to a great start. I don't think they're going to kill it like that. But like Rico said, I do expect them to make it out of that group that they're in with Paraguay, Australia, and Turkey. I do expect them to make it out of that group. I do expect them to make it out of that group. So anyway, I digress. That is going to do it for me, your man Louie T, here on this installment of the Command Post Live. You know what it is. Post up. Take command. It was, as a wise man once said, today was a good day. Keep stacking up these good days, man. Keep stacking up these good days as you bring to a close this really strong offseason for the Commanders. The momentum is building and building, and it'll get to a crescendo here at some point in late July as we hit training camp. But we're going to talk about this offseason for the Commanders. This has been an A. I can't call it an A+ because there's still things that they could have done, i.e. add another receiver, which they're working on, which could ultimately happen. And this A could turn into an A+. They could have also added another corner, and they could have gotten something for Tyler Biadasz in terms of draft capital instead of just cutting him. There are other things that they could have done to make this an A+ offseason. Feels like an A- right now. And adding Ayuk would make it an A. And I think it's an A offseason, however you want to slice it. Now, can it get to an A+? I guess it could, theoretically speaking, if you were able to add Ayuk and somehow add a fifth corner that we feel really good about, but or add any receiver. It could be Stephon Diggs. I don't care, right? I mean, I prefer Ayuk, but we just need another guy, right? We just need another receiver. I would prefer it to be Ayuk, though. There's more of a future potentially with a Brandon Ayuk than there is a Stephon Diggs. So anyway, I digress. That's going to do it for me, your man Louie T. Until next time, y'all know what it is. Minicamp in full swing. Ben SINNOTT making plays. Hey, how about that? Round of applause for our guy, Benny SINNOTT. How about Jake Moody on the ropes? That young boy, Drew Stevens, ain't playing with him. He better tighten up. And the young guys getting an opportunity to strut their stuff. Sonny Styles continuing to grow as a communicator. Lots of good things, lots of great vibes right now in the world of the Washington Commanders. And we just basking in it right now. Until next time, I'm your man, Louie T, signing off. You guys have a good one. Take care. Peace. Ha ha.